All right, welcome back here inside the TCO studios. Gabe Henderson here alongside Ron Johnson from Vikings GameDay Live. And Ron, we are going to break down some of the top wide receivers in this 2021 draft class. And before we talk about it, we got to state the obvious. We have Justin Jefferson, we have Adam Thielen, but there is a void at that wide receiver number 3 spot. But before we start talking about some of those voids, let's talk about arguably the best wide receiver in this draft class, JaMarr Chase.
Deep sideline, got it. Chase in stride. Touchdown, JaMarr Chase.
Burrow going to launch downfield for Chase. Who's got it? Touchdown, LSU.
And caught. JaMarr Chase for the touchdown.
Why is he the best receiver in this draft class?
Well, you look at JaMarr Chase, I mean, yes, he benefited from Joe Burrow. You also had Justin Jefferson. But then, to be on the field with Justin Jefferson and you're the better receiver, even though we know how good Justin really is in the NFL, that's how good JaMarr Chase is. When he was on screen, number 1 flashed way more than number 2 in games. Yeah. And that was maybe scheme, maybe Justin Jefferson, now we know how good he is. He was being taken out of certain coverages by teams because they're like, look, we can't decide who's going to beat us, so we just got to pick our poison. Yeah. But JaMarr Chase, I mean, he catches the ball with his hands. He runs really well after the catch. He showed his 40 time at 4.39, but on film, he looks 4.28, 4.29. I mean, the kid is moving and pulling away from DBs. You look at the Florida game. You look at the Clemson game. He's going against DBs that ran 4.4, and he's making those guys look 4.5, 4.6. And then his route tree. Now, it was limited because in that offense, it was a lot of crossing routes, a lot of 4 receiver routes. You had the tight end with Moss in there. And so they had a lot of stuff that you won't do in the NFL as much because you're not going to really go 4 or 5 wides a ton in the NFL. But he has the ability to learn. Why? His size, he's not too big, but he's not too small. He's right in that 6'1", 200-pound grouping that's kind of the prototypical slot outside receiver, can kind of play both. His jumping ability, the ability to go up and high point a ball, he does that better than I've seen a lot of guys do. He has the, I'm not going to say it because he's not that big, but the Julio Jones type of ball skills where when the ball's up, he turns 50-50 balls into 80-20. Joe Burrow took a lot of chances with him. And that's why I think the 50-50 turned into 80-20, I think that's what puts him, kind of top of this class. Yes, the speed, but the ability to trust. He uses his frame at that 200 pounds to hold DBs off, and then last minute he's going up and stabbing the ball out of the air. And that's what makes him good.
So it was a Biletnikoff winner back in his sophomore year. Of course, we know he opted out last year, but at 19 years old, he's beating first-round draft picks. Patrick Surtain, Trayvon Diggs, who were first-round draft picks last year. Like, he could have been a first-round draft pick last year if, the NFL allowed sophomores to come out. But the next guy I want to talk about, if he would have came out last year, he probably would have been the first receiver drafted also. Devonta Smith, 2020 Heisman Trophy winner.
Gets the ball to Smith in traffic, and Devonta flashes the speed. Jones looking to throw far side, has Smith in stride.
Goes to the end zone. Oh, what a catch! Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith cannot be stopped. A truly special performance by the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, when you look at Devonta Smith, the weight, 170 pounds. I think that's what everybody's going to talk about. This kid's only 170 pounds. But then when you watch the film, he runs a lot of slants and under routes, and he's taking a beating. I mean, he's getting hit. He's getting spent around. You look at the Tennessee game, getting absolutely depleted, but he jumps back up. And so he has that toughness, that football toughness, and then his route running. I mean, you watch the routes. He's very patient at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't let a DB impress, stifle him and make him second guess what he's going to do. When he's in the open field, he understands coverage. On crossing routes, he knows to climb, which means if there's a linebacker there, I need to go over the linebacker, but then if there's a safety, I'm going to go under the safety. He finds that perfect hole for a guy like Mac Jones. And Mac Jones, watching film too, jumped off at me. But when you look at what he does for Mac Jones, he made Mac Jones a top 5 pick. I mean, this kid in the last 2 years has done stuff receivers haven't done in their entire career. He knows when to use his speed and when to kind of bluff like he's going to go deep and then run that comeback. And you see that in some of his curl routes where he's wide open on a curl route and the DB is kind of trying to figure out where he went. Post corners, he does the same thing. He bursts to the post and then he takes his time coming out of that corner route with no wasted steps. And I think that's the key to a true NFL receiver. He understands the steps, he understands the footwork, and he's always chest over knees, knees over toes. I have rarely see him slip or kind of come out wrong in a route. And yeah, he could have been a first-round pick last year.
I'm going to stay with Devonta Smith before we move to our next guy. 3,965 career yards at Alabama, 46 touchdowns, the first Alabama receiver to win AP National Player of the Year.
Yep.
Bucky Brooks has the Vikings selecting him with the 14th overall pick. If you were Rick Spielman and Devonta Smith is right there, would you select him?
Yeah, at 14, I would, and this is the reason. Brian Billick, we had him on Vikings.com, and we asked him about the 1998 draft. You have Chris Carter, you have Jake Reed, which is kind of similar to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, two really good players, one potential Hall of Famer in years to come. You added Randy Moss. Yes, I would add a Devonta Smith. Why? Because if you could put up 21 points in the first quarter, who cares who's in your defense? You know, I don't need a ton of cornerbacks if I'm putting up 21 early on. You still got Dalvin Cook. You got Irv Smith, who can be a joker type, tight end. He can motion out, create mismatches. But then when you have to decide Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, or Devonta Smith, and Devonta Smith is technically your slot, or Justin Jefferson, we know, killed it in the slot for LSU, and now you put Devonta Smith outside. I mean, yes, he's 170 pounds, but Chad Ochocinco put it best. It doesn't matter the size of the dog. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And when you look at that fight and the ability for him to be able to just go every single play and take hits and block guys down the field, he's a football player, and that's all that matters.
Ronald Moore is a football player.
Ronald Moore separates. He makes the catch, first down, and a lot more for Purdue. Throws his deep ball for Moore, who's open, and he's got it. Touchdown, Purdue. Ronald Moore. He is incredible.
CBS Freshman of the Year his first year in 2018, but last 2 years haven't been oh so great. Got injured, but why does he stand out to you?
Yeah, he's going to have to find a way to stay healthy.
Okay.
And that's the key. You can't make the club in the tub. And Rondale Moore is going to be one of those guys. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to get drafted second, third round. And when he shows up to camp, his goal is to stay healthy. Because the minute you get hurt, teams find ways to get rid of you. Look at Anthony Gonzalez, former Ohio State first-round pick to the Colts, could never stay healthy. You know, he didn't last long. You know, that's what happens when you can't stay healthy. They move on from you. And so with Rondale Moore, though, he's extremely explosive. The kid can return kicks, can return punts, can run jet sweeps, can line up in the backfield. I mean, Purdue put him everywhere. You look at down the field running. He makes guys look silly trying to keep up with him just because of his speed. Is a true 4.3 40 guy. He has track speed. He squats about 550 pounds. He deadlifts. You know, this is a strong lower body kid that in traffic with DBs, you got to bring your hard hat. You got to hit this guy in the knees, hit him in the thighs, wrap him up. If you just hit that little shoulder that DBs like to do every once in a while, he's coming out of it and he's gone. And so he's an explosive guy that doesn't have to come into a team right away and be a top receiver. He also easily can slide in and be your kick returner and be your punt returner because he's done that, and he's done it at a high level, and he's dangerous. He's a guy that when he gets the ball, teams are scared of him catching the ball because wherever he is, he's a play waiting to happen.
Yeah, a lot of people have him tabbed as the shiftiest player in all of college football right now. I compared him to Peter Warrick, how he's able to stop on a dime. But another guy who was very shifty and one of my favorite players in all of college football last year, Cadarius Toney.
Toney, touchdown, Florida.
Trask gonna go deep. He's got Toney, and he's got it. Touchdown, Florida. Cadarius Toney.
And look at Cadarius Toney.
Yeah, he's another guy that's strong. He's not as strong as Rondale Moore, but yes, he has that certain burst. He surprisingly enough, though, makes some pretty good catches when the ball is in his area. You know, his catch radius isn't as wide as some of these other guys, but he does go up and catch the ball when it's there. But Florida runs a lot of the underneath routes, a lot of the quick slant stuff. You know, they want to get the ball in his hands on jet sweeps. So he didn't have a full route tree, you know, per se. And Florida never has. Florida receivers have never had comebacks, digs, and all that other stuff. You know, they kind of have their offense, which is crossing routes. Let's use our speed. Let's out leverage the coverage and just outrun you. And that's what he does. They create confusion. They line up a lot of crisscross routes. So in the NFL, is that going to convert over? Probably not. But what he gives you is pure speed. He can take the top off. You can send him deep out of the slot, take the safety out the picture, have Adam Thielen come underneath for Justin Jefferson on a drag route or a dig route. And so he has the ability. And then if the safety gets nosy, like guys like Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu do, do? Correct. Cadarius Toney is over the top. Again, he's another guy that can return punts and return kicks, so he adds that element to his game. But you watch the Ole Miss game, I don't know if Ole Miss can't tackle or this guy is just that strong, because it was like watching a pinball.
The guy can ball. When the lights are bright, he's going to show up. But speaking about what have you done for me lately, the next guy, Rashod Bateman, he did a lot for me lately. He broke all of your records at Minnesota.
Little pass, that's Bateman, and he tumbles in. Touchdown, Minnesota.
Well, he has the freshman record. Let's be straight. Tyler Johnson, Buccaneers receiver, he has all the other records. I still have the most catches consistently in a season for a career, 46 straight games, no drops. So I don't think that'll ever be broken.
They didn't count the one against us. I'm joking.
I don't think that'll be broken. But yeah, Rashod Bateman, to me, if he had stayed for 4 years, legit, he has every record at the University of Minnesota. Yeah. This kid is 6'2", and a lot of people didn't understand, speed was the question. And then you turn the film and you're like, well, I don't know why speed is the question. This kid has a burst in him, but he runs real kind of patient. He has long legs, so he's not that quick, explosive. He has more of that Randy Moss stride, where all of a sudden you look up and he's gone. You look at his 40 time, same thing, 4.39. So you could say whatever you want. The kid put it on the field on film, and he put it with his t-shirt and shorts with scouts with a stopwatch. And so when you see Rashod Bateman, though, I mean, the high ball fade, he's able to go up and get it. The ability to block down the field at that size, that's what he adds as well. You don't see a lot of these smaller guys as good of blockers with a Devonta Smith at 170 pounds as you do with Rashod Bateman. But route running, you watch his corner routes, you watch his comebacks, you watch his curls, and his suddenness. I think that's the other key. When you watch him on a hitch, he's sudden with it. He stops his feet. On a slant, he's sudden with it. But I think he's a guy that can give you any route in the route tree and the speed we've seen it.
Well, Ron, we know this draft class is deep, similar to last year's draft. So whether that's second, third, fourth, the Vikings have an opportunity to get a playmaker at wide receiver. But with that said, I'm going to get us out of here. So for Ron Johnson, I'm Gabe Henderson. Thank you guys again for tuning into another edition of the NFL Draft Prospect Profile.